This is certainly one of the reviews I know a number of you guys have been waiting for as regards to video processor reviews. I finally picked one up recently, a Micomsoft Framemeister XRGB-Mini. I thought I would follow a similar process that I've recently gone through as regards to the SLG in a box review, where I actually tried several consoles as part of that review process. I think I'll do exactly the same. I have played around a bit with the XRGB-Mini, but with only one console at the moment. So I'll be learning as I go through this video as regards to how this scaler will react with all the consoles that I've got, and you know, basically how it works with them, what I've got to set, what I haven't got to set. So that'll be a sort of learning process for me, but I'll certainly include all that detail in with the video. Hopefully that'll be of use to you. I suppose we start off really with a very small introduction really to the XRGB-Mini and what it is and what it does and why we've got it. Micomsoft have developed a number of video processors and scalers. I'm sure you're aware of them. You know, the XRGB, the XRGB2, the 2 Plus, and the XRGB3. And I suppose with each iteration that they've done, they've added functionality, whether that's software-based functionality or actually hardware-based functionality, but each one has sort of progressed. And XRGB-Mini is specifically been designed for the current HD gen of displays. It's probably worth saying that the previous XRGB models were really built and anticipated for CRT use, albeit PC type monitor use. And of course the XRGB3 was perhaps one of the first ones that was actually started to be used more and more for current displays. You know, it had a DVI output on the back, so we connected to a display, an LCD plasma, had a DVI in on it, and it was starting to sort of make use of resolutions for upscaling purposes that were certainly a lot higher than the previous versions of the XRGB. So things have certainly shifted a lot as regards to the core reason really, certainly for the XRGB-Mini. It is really for people that have got current gen HD machines. You know, the only output on the XRGB-Mini is HDMI. So you get this in the box. So this is the actual scaler unit, and when it says, it's weird because they call it XRGB-Mini and it really is small. What I don't really want to do on this video is show it against one of the previous XRGBs, because I will undoubtedly show that on my top 10 video to give a bit more sort of comparison between the different types of video processors and scalers. But it is small. I mean, if we get an iPhone 4, that's an iPhone 4, and that's how tall it is. In fact, it's more or less absolutely cock on the same sort of depth or height or width, whichever way you want to call it, but it's sort of that, you know. And you've probably got what, 1, 2, say 3 across. It is very, very small for a scaling unit. It's even smaller. Just looking at it, it does look smaller than the previous XRGB range. So yeah, calling it XRGB-Mini is quite apt actually. So on the unit itself, you have several inputs, and you've got one output, just a single output, which is a HDMI out on the back there. If I just show you that there, you can probably see that a bit better. So let's just have a look and just read it from the top. Right, you've got a little slot there, which is an SD slot, which can be used for firmware upgrades. You've got HDMI out next to it there. Now you've got all the inputs. We'll start with the inputs. So we have the right and left audio as an input, and actually bridged with that is a D input, which is that there. and that's a weird type of input. It's not used in Europe at all. I think it's only in Japan that that's used, but I could be wrong. Next to it you've got two HDMI ins, you've got a USB port, and you've got a DC 5 volt in put there, which is a lot better, or a lot easier actually for us guys that don't want to use the standard power adapter that requires a step down in the UK or Europe. You can get a fairly generic power supply to fit that, I suspect, easily enough. Going around to the front of the unit, we have a, sorry, I've just got to turn that back. Right, I've got RGB in, which is a type of, it's a multi-pin mini DIN, and I'll come on to that in a second about what that is and what that's actually used for. And then on the other side of the unit you've got various other inputs for AV. So you've got your normal AV inputs, so again you've got your left and right audio, you've got composite. I'll spit on the floor in disgust. And next to it you've actually got a super VHS, so at least you can scale from super VHS if you wanted to, or do what you ever want to do from a VHS, a super VHS input, sorry. So that's the unit itself, and on the front of the unit you've then got various buttons that you actually use to go through the menus and do selections and change things, and you've actually got the power button as well on the front there. So that's the unit, very, very uncomplicated in the way that it looks. Effectively all the power of the unit really is through the menus as regards to you changing settings and doing what you want to do. Now, as the actual unit itself is fairly sparse on leads that it comes with, and it comes with one lead, that one, and that is a lead that plugs into the RGB in on the front, so that's using the multi-pin mini DIN plug on one end, and it's got a female SCART on the other end. Now the problem is because this is a Japanese machine for the Japanese market, the actual wiring configuration of a SCART, I may have mentioned it on the previous video, the wiring configuration on a Japanese SCART is totally different to a European wiring configuration. And of course out of the box these are wired for Japanese SCART. Now they are fairly easy to actually rewire this, and if I remember I'll drop the link to the description of the video of the diagram to rewire that if you wanted to do that, because if you're in Europe or you're using European SCART cables on your consoles, you'd have to rewire that. Do not plug in a European SCART lead into this because it won't work. Now on the previous XRGBs, if you plugged in a European SCART into the front of the XRGB, because again they're wired for Japanese use, you'd actually damage the unit. I'm not actually sure whether or not doing that would damage this unit. I don't know, but basically don't do it. Either rewire that or buy one, which you can get on eBay. You can get these leads that will go into this that are wired for European SCART. Buy one of those off eBay. Something that was by the person that originally bought this unit, this is a second-hand unit, the guy that originally bought this unit bought a D connector. So that's that weird Japanese type sort of connector that goes onto the back of the XRGB, and this one's actually got component phonos on it. So that could be used for something like an Xbox 360. Sorry, Xbox 360. It could be used for an Xbox 360 actually. It could be used for an original Xbox or a PlayStation 2, for instance, to get 480p out of it into the scaler. So that's an added extra. So you'd have to buy something like that if you wanted to use a component input. Something else the guy bought was actually one of these aftermarket SCART cables. And this is one of them here. So this is actually wired for European SCART, and it looks a bit unwieldy as a SCART cable, and I'll explain why. Now if we ignore these two wires for the moment, forget those, that effectively looks very similar to the original cable that comes with it, but it's wired for European SCART. One of the things that's been picked up as regards to people testing this device, the XRGB Mini, is that it appears to prefer, and it's no different to the previous XRGBs, if I'm being honest, it seems to prefer a clean sync signal. So that's a composite sync, not composite video for sync. And again, if you look at some of my previous videos, you will have seen mentions of this before. You'll already be aware that I use a device called a sync strike, which cleans the sync signal up. Well, this lead here has got a sync cleaner in it already. So this is specifically for the XRGB Mini, and effectively it's got a little chip in there that does some magic stuff to the sync signal to clean it up, to ensure there's maximum compatibility with the XRGB Mini. And actually, to power that sync circuit, to guarantee power, the producer of this cable has built in a loop through on the power in. So basically you plug into this one here, you plug in the power supply that would normally go to the XRGB Mini. That goes into there, powers the chip and the circuit board in there, and then you got a loop through that comes out, and that goes straight to the back of the Mini. So at least you can keep it all in one unit. You don't need another power supply, and you guarantee you've always got a power going to the circuit inside that. So that's just a little bit of background from this circuit. I think this was purchased from a company called Retro Access. I think that's who they are. If you go on eBay and you put in Micomsoft or XRGB Mini, you should find the seller that sells these, and they're not particularly cheap, but had I not had this, I would have altered this one. It'd take minutes to do that, and I'd use my sync strike, so it wouldn't be a major issue for me. And you can use other sync cleaners, but that's obviously a nice, neat solution. It all plugs in, it's all self-powering through the existing PSU that you use for the XRGB Mini. So it is a good lead, and it appears to work well. But obviously we'll find that out as I go through my testing. So that's a very quick sort of overview of the device. I suppose again, just to highlight what the device can be used for. It will accept natively, it will accept a 240p image, so it will accept and recognise correctly a old style retro game console, Megadrive, Super Nintendo, etc, etc, and it will effectively line double it, and you can scale it as well, and you can overlay scan lines. So there's a lot of functionality that you can make use of should you wish to. You may not want to scale it, you may just want to line double it. If you start scaling the image on a 1080p display, a PC monitor or a TV, the image will get sharper. It depends on what if you like the sharpness, or you want to dull it down a bit, you want it more CRT. There's all sorts of things you can do with this. It will take in an interlaced picture. So it will take in a 480i picture, it will correctly deinterlace it, and it will change it into a progressive signal. Again, it will do a very good job of that, reportedly, we'll find out. And it will also take in a minimal 480p picture. So it will take a 480p picture in. I think you can put scan lines over it. I have to double check as we go through the review of this, and you can upscale it as well. So I suppose effectively as a gamer, excuse me, this will do everything you want it to do as regards to gaming stuff. And the good thing about the XRGB range of scalers, and the XRGB Mini is no exception to this, is the fact that it will take composites. You can do the same things to the composite signal if that's all what you've got. I mean, I get various comments, various questions from people based on some of the videos that I've done, and saying, look, unfortunately I haven't got RGB, I can't get RGB, how do I deal with normal composite, how do I deal with Super VHS? Well, this will actually enable you to do that. This device will enable you to deal with those signals. Of course, the output or the image quality from it isn't going to be as good as dealing with a component RGB source. That's just life. We have to deal with that. But at least it gives you some expandability about what you can do with the device. You're not just limited to only having RGB as your source. Even though I'd recommend above anything else, that's what you should try and strive to achieve, a minimal of RGB output on any of your consoles. But you know, at least this gives you a bit more movement on that. You've got more options. Another good thing about the XRGB Mini is that, or shall I say, another good thing about the XRGB range, certainly since the 3 and the Mini, and the fact that because the firmware can be updated, is there is an active scene to do updating. There's been several versions of the firmware that have been released since the actual device was released, which was about 12 months ago now, and it's through a lot of it is through feedback from the forums, and one of the main forums is Shmups forum. There's a massive thread that's going on there at the moment. It's over 100 pages long, and a lot of things have come out of that in regards to testing what you can do, what you can't do, what works, what doesn't work. It's a great source of information. Again, I'll leave a link to that in the video description. And if you're getting one of these devices, you're thinking of getting one, it's certainly worthwhile reading that. And there's a log of all the changes that have been made, what the changes do, and a lot of the new changes come out of that thread. You know, there's communications going back to Micomsoft about what's coming from that thread to get in for future firmware releases. So it's a good platform as regards to the development of such a device, and the fact that everyone can get actively involved in it. So you know, it's all good stuff. So that is a quick overview of the device. I suppose really I need to get into the detail and the guts of this review as regards to how it actually works with consoles. So again, I'm going to start going through my consoles now. I'll start filming what it looks like. I suppose one thing worth saying is I was a bit sceptical about this device. I suppose really because a lot of you guys know that I'm really into my CRTs, and I've got so many processors and video scalers, and I've tried most. I haven't tried them all, but I've tried quite a few, and there's always been a difference between CRT and doing anything through an LCD or plasma, in my opinion. And the CRTs always have a better look to them, again in my opinion. I've got to be honest, I was really surprised when I hooked this up after I got the settings sorted, which didn't take that long. It looks the bollocks, it really does, and I don't want to over exaggerate anything, but it does look outstanding. I was truly impressed with it on the one console, which was a Super Nintendo. I've got to stress that because I haven't tried all the other consoles I'm going to try as part of this review process, so I may change my mind, but it was simply outstanding. It really was. The quality was just great, and the actual image pops out at you, which is something that I feel CRTs have always been better at as regards to natively. That's what they do. You know, I'm not going to go through the sort of be all end all about this and whether it's actually better than the CRT or, you know. All I would say is the XRGB Mini, from the initial test that I've done, has been extremely positive. Really good. Really good. So anyway, without further ado, I'll start pulling the consoles out and we'll get cracking on some detail. Right, so here we have a PC Engine Super Graphics. I'm not going to bother going through all the plethora of different types of PC engines. I've got a wide variety of them, but all my PC engines use the same RGB mod, so it's a waste of time me really trying them all. I'll just try one. This is one of the systems that's caused processors issues in the past. I haven't had as many issues, I've got to be honest, because of the RGB mod that I use, but anyway. So this is plugged into the Framemeister via RGB, as will nearly all of the consoles that I'll be showing as part of this review process be connected. And this is on a Dell PC LCD. Now, this console's been plugged in for a while now, and I've had no sync dropouts. This is being displayed in 720p mode with scan lines, because that's the best mode currently available to get the scan lines and to get a really nice image, and hopefully you can actually see that as part of this this video process. I must admit the colours aren't coming out quite as well on the viewfinder as what they are on the screen, so it might look slightly off on the video, but they're not in real life. They're absolutely bang on colour wise, and of course I've got some light coming into the room at the moment. We're currently being filmed, so there's a bit of a sort of reflection on the side of the LCD, but you wouldn't normally get that. So this on RGB, the picture looks absolutely stunning. The only thing that I've had to change on this compared to the previous settings I had for the Super Nintendo was just to turn the brightness down, and that was it. Everything else was exactly the same, so very little alteration needed for that. So that's the Super Graphics. Now, just as an experiment, I thought I'd swap over to using composite input actually on the Super Graphics, just for a bit of a laugh really, and actually it's worthwhile showing it really for this review process. So this is a Super Graphics. This has been changed now to only using composite video for the video signal, and you know what, whilst it doesn't look anywhere near as sharp as an RGB signal, it looks bloody good. I'm pretty impressed with this. You know, the colours are a bit washed out, but because you've got the scanline overlay, it does sharpen the image. Sorry, it does sharpen the image up a bit, which is something that I've alluded to on previous videos of using the SLG 3000 in line with a different type of processor. So, as a video. Composite video onto a HD TV, that looks pretty damn impressive, and I haven't altered anything at all on the Framemeister to do this. I've just changed the inputs over, that's all I've done. So I maybe have to clean the image up slightly more through using some of the settings on the Framemeister, but I've just kept everything exactly the same. I've just swapped the input over to being composite video instead of RGB, and hopefully on this video you'll see that it looks pretty damn good. So you know, in answer to people there being asking about using other type of video signals, the Framemeister copes admirably really with a crap signal to begin with, that being composite, but yeah, pretty impressive. So we have the NeoGeo CD. Again, I've had no sync issues, and I've actually turned the brightness back to what it was for the Super Nintendo connection, and it looks pretty mint. I'm sure you'll agree from the video. Nice and sharp. So yeah, that's another successful test. It looks absolutely stunning actually on this LCD, and I think you'll hear that quite a number of times, I think, throughout this review as regards to a comment about each of the different types of consoles. But yeah, that's an RGB CD. Now I have a bit more of an interesting console here as regards to trying various different types of video output mode. This PlayStation 2. This particular game that I've shown on a number of previous videos actually enables me to flip between 240p, 480i and 480p, so it's a good testing game really for these types of processors. This is currently in 240p mode with the overlaid scan lines. Yeah, it looks mint. To coin one of my favourite phrases, it looks absolutely mint. Lovely definition, great colours, and what more can I say? So we will flip straight over to looking at something in 480i. Yeah, this is where it certainly gets very interesting. This is the same game it's been switched to 480i, so effectively this scaler now has got to deinterlace that and then make it into a progressive signal. There's a couple of processing options that you can have on the Framemeister. There's effectively a pretty and slow processing method, and then there's a fast and an ugly processing method. What I'm going to show you now is the slow and pretty. Now, it's weird because there seems to be an extremely minute, to me, to touch, there seems to be an extremely minute difference in the sort of lag between the two, but it's so small, and actually, because this mode that I'm going to show you here looks so much, well, it looks better. It doesn't look so much better. It looks better than the other mode, and the other mode doesn't look bad. It doesn't look bad at all. I'm pretty impressed with this, actually. It's let's just get back to the game. I mean, you probably won't pick this up on the video, the difference between the two modes, I wouldn't have thought, but that isn't a bad deinterlacing effort, to be honest, for really such a small processor. You know, all the blocks of the graphics are retained through movement. It looks really nice, actually. Yeah, so this is the fast mode. Sorry, this is the slow mode, but the pretty deinterlacing. But it feels fine to me. It doesn't feel laggy or slow. I'll now just switch over to the other mode. Yeah, you do appear to get, occasionally you get some minor combing effects come through, but you know. Right, let's switch the modes over. In fact, what I'll do that while I'm filming. So we go down to image mode, and we'll go to game mode 2, which is effectively fast and ugly. Let's just get rid of that. Okay, menu again, menu, right. Now, like I said, I'm not sure whether it picks anything up. I mean, there is a difference on the response. You know, there is a difference on the controller response. Whereas this feels like there's absolutely virtually no lag that I can pick up, processing lag. You know, there is a hint of it on the other one, on the other mode. But it all depends on what game you're playing and what you're, you know, what you deem as being acceptable. But even on this deinterlacing mode, it is pretty bloody impressive. The picture's nice. I mean, it is a nice picture. It's got a little bit of a wobble to it, you know, but sort of nothing that's detracting from the gameplay. You know, considering this is an interlaced image being turned into progressive scan, it's pretty impressive. And of course, I've turned the scan lines off of this particular this particular video mode that I've got up. Yeah, so that's the 480i signal on PS2. Again, sort of just to reiterate, this is going through a SCART RGB lead at the moment, which brings me on to the next demo, which is for me to show a PlayStation 2 on component with a progressive signal come out of it and going into the Framemeister. So we now have the PlayStation 2 in 480p mode, which has meant I've had to change the input side on the Framemeister to move over to the D input, which I've got the D input to component phonos. So I've changed the PlayStation to component and plugged that into the Framemeister. I've had to do a bit of jiggery pokery to get the image that you can see now in front of you, which is sort of pretty decent, to be honest, if not pretty fantastic as a real nice and sharp image from a 480 progressive source. This requires you to change a few things now within the Framemeister as regards to the menu settings, and it's around the actual scaler function. At the moment I've got the H scaler setting set to 7 and the V scaler setting set to 6, and I'm also up to alter the sharpness to 1, which previously for the other 240p inputs via SCART, sharpness was set to 0. And I've changed the brightness as well to suit my requirements, but the actual end results are pretty fantastic actually. So this is a sort of flat retro type game in 480p. I'm now going to change the game over to a 2D fighter, so you can see what that looks like. But the results so far are pretty impressive, to be honest. So again, we have the PlayStation 2 in component mode, 480p output on Guilty Gear XX this game is, and as you can see there again, the actual quality there of the image going for 480p. This has only been scaled to 720, so if I took up to 1080 it will be slightly sharper, but I actually think that looks quite nice as it is, to be honest. So another successful test. Right, next up we have an original Xbox, and since these consoles for 95+% of their games were able to output in a progressive 480p video signal, this is obviously another test coming off the back of the PlayStation 2 test of the capability to take 480p signal and upscale it nice and cleanly, and hopefully you can see from this video footage that the Framemeister does exactly that with an Xbox. So again, another successful test. It's probably worth saying that so far I haven't had one sync issue yet with any of the consoles that I've tried, and should I actually get a sync issue I will say that at the appropriate point in time, but I haven't had one yet. So that's the original Xbox done. Right, for this test we have the Nintendo Wii, which is pretty notorious for giving an absolute crap component output progressive scan image, and whilst it's not absolutely awesome compared to the Xbox or the PlayStation 2, again it's very, very nice. It's probably the best that I've seen the Wii as regards to the quality of the output. So again, the XRGB-Mini Framemeister appears to be doing a good job here, as you can see from the video image. Right, next up we have the SEGA Megadrive. And again, specifically, this is quite an interesting test, this one, because this specific Megadrive is a PAL Megadrive, and is being converted to be switchable to 60 Hz and play NTSC games. At the moment, the actual console's in PAL mode, and it's playing a PAL game. And the XRGB-Mini handles PAL material absolutely fine. I've played it, and it is absolutely fine. The only caveat is that you have to change the output, the resolution output of the XRGB-Mini if you want to get the correct speed for the PAL game, so you don't get no jerking or anything. It's not doing any frame rate conversion. And also if you want to use scanlines. At the moment I've got scanlines enabled, so to do that I need to change the video output mode to to 576p, and once you do that, you get perfect alignment of the scan lines, which is what you can see here. But hopefully you can see from the movement of the characters on screen, there's no jerkiness there. It's nice and smooth because it's actually outputting at a 50 hertz rate, not 60. So all the animation and the scrolling will be absolutely perfect, but of course you're not getting any speed up on it. You know, you're not using a 60 hertz refresh, so the game stays natively PAL, which is absolutely fine. That's what we're trying to prove here. So it does work absolutely fine with PAL. Obviously all the other consoles I've tried up to now have been at 60 hertz that have been effectively NTSC. So this is the first console that I've tried that is actually outputting a PAL signal, and it works absolutely fine with it. So sticking with the SEGA Megadrive, the Megadrive has now been switched to 60 hertz, and it's playing a 60 hertz game, an NTSC game. And going back to the normal kind of inputs we've been showing previously on this video, it handles it absolutely fine. You'll notice on the Megadrive that you've got this sort of apparent underscan. You can expand the picture by using functionality within the options menu side of the XRGB-Mini, so you can change the size of the picture to sort of stretch it out slightly, or you know, or shrink it depending on what you want to do. I haven't done that specifically for this video, but you can do that. But apart from that, it plays absolutely fine. Obviously 60 hertz, you know, we've seen enough 60 hertz so far at the moment to know that the XRGB-Mini will just suck that up and spit it out absolutely fine. But yeah, no problem at all, no dropouts, no sync issues at all. Right, next up, we've got a NeoGeo AES. Similar really to the PC Engine, this particular console has caused a number of processors in the past an issue, specifically with the sync of the console with the processor, and you're getting screen blanking. As you can see, it's really nice. It looks really nice as per the previous consoles. I've had this running now for about 15 minutes, 15-20 minutes, and haven't had one sync issue. So it's successful in that way, certainly. I had to make a slight adjustment on the vertical width. I had to increase it by 1 to 33. It was originally set to 32. The reason I had to do that is I was getting some minor sort of irregularities on the scanline overlay. I was getting about 3 misaligned lines for some reason, so I just altered the V width to 33, like I just said, and it's corrected it. So with a minor adjustment, it plays absolutely fine, and I think you'll see from the video it looks simply stunning. So yeah, no problems here with a with a Neo Geo even, AES, and we'll go on to the next console. Right, so next up we have an SEGA Saturn NTSC version running an NTSC game, and again it works absolutely fine. Doesn't appear to be any sync issues. Picture's clear, picture's sharp. What more can I say? It works. So that is the SEGA Saturn. Right, next console up is a Japanese NTSC Super Famicom. Again, working in 240p mode, being line doubled as all the other retro consoles have been, via RGB SCART. It is absolutely no issue at all for the XRGB-Mini. Picture is absolutely crystal sharp, and it just works. I haven't had to change any of the settings on the Mini to get this one work, outside of any of the default settings I've got for the majority of the console. So again, it's just sort of plug and play really, no sync issues. I suppose one thing worth mentioning, even though you've probably worked this out already, is there is some slight blooming of the backlight that you're seeing on the video, but it actually isn't viewable to the naked eye from where I'm sitting here. So that's just a process of the technology that you see there. It's sort of bloomed quite a lot, the background light, but you don't see that normally. It's just what the camera's picking up, so you can ignore that. That's nothing to do with the Mini at all. But yeah, it works absolutely fine. By the way, this specific Super Nintendo isn't a one-chip one. It's one of the original launch Nintendos. So the picture will be slightly sharper if it was a one-chip Nintendo. But again, something worth mentioning as well, and I'll probably sum this up as part of the conclusions to this review video, is that I haven't, as of yet, on any of the consoles I've connected, had any issues with any jail bars. I'll get no jail bars whatsoever with any of the consoles that I've been using. So again, that's another bonus, obviously, of the XRGB Mini. So we'll go on to the next console, and I think will actually be the final console. Now I'll give you one guess to, well, have a guess to what this console is. It's pretty obvious, I think. It is the Nintendo 64. Now this is an NTSC version, one of the launch consoles. I've RGB modded it. Now one of the real good advantages of the XRGB Mini is that you have a setting on there called AD level, and effectively what that does is it lets you boost the incoming signal to make it brighter, more contrast, etc. Now, as I'm sure you're aware, there is an inherent issue with the N64s that you can RGB mod, in that the actual RGB signal is pretty weak. Well, all I've done on this is, as I've connected it straight up with my normal default settings for normal SCART consoles at 240p, the image was quite dark, as I expected, because normally on my PVM, if I've got it connected on my PVM or any other CRTs, I have to turn the contrast up, but it's absolutely fine. The picture looks fine. Now with the XRGB Mini, I effectively adjusted the AD level. For the purpose of this video, it's maximum, it's at 255, and the picture is really strong. I think, as you can see on the video there, it's got very high contrast to it. So I'm really pleased with that, because it's easy to change, and it works really well. It does work really well. So again, this is an N64 on RGB SCART, and as you can see from the picture, it is pretty mint. So where do I actually start with this conclusion to this review video? Hopefully, as part of the process that I've gone through, you get a good idea and a good insight to how the XRGB Mini Framemeister deals with various consoles. I think I've gone through a fairly in-depth process to show you guys a plethora of different types of consoles, and I must admit there hasn't been one console that I have actually connected that the XRGB Mini has had a problem with. Everything has passed with flying colours, in effect. I started to note down some of the issues albeit minor issues, that I'd picked up as part of the review process that I didn't actually mention specifically. And I suppose amazingly enough, I only actually came up with 2 things. Now, I'm not saying that this is the exhaustive list, but this is what I found and what I experienced personally. But there was 2 sort of minor caveats really. One of them is the fact that the XRGB Mini does have a bit of an issue when the signal when the input signal changes between different types of signal on the same input. So for instance, if a game uses an interlaced video signal for menus, but the actual game itself is 240p, if the Framemeister detects a difference or a change in the video signal, it drops out and it takes time to resync again, you know, only, I don't know, a second or 2 seconds, but it can be a bit annoying with games that do flip between different video modes. There's not many of them, but there are some for some consoles. Hopefully that will get fixed in a future firmware release, but that is a very minor issue at the moment. I didn't really experience it, I've got to be honest. I didn't try any of those games like that, but I know that there is an issue with that, and you can see that when you're flipping between various input types. The screen will go blank and then it will resync again, but it's only but that only happens when it's resyncing or when it's trying to sync between various different video modes on the same input. The other minor issue is to do with the PlayStation 2 specifically. When you use a component input, for some reason there is an issue with something called chroma shift that you experience on reds, and I didn't actually show it on the video, but the red on component tends to be slightly blurred. So if you switch on scanlines, for instance, you don't see much of the scanline on a red colour. You get a bit of blurring, but you don't get it on the RGB SCART. So it's only on component on a PlayStation 2. Again, it's a very minor thing. So certainly don't let that put you off. It's not a major problem in my opinion. So really, from all the consoles I've tried, they were the only 2 sort of minor caveats. I wouldn't call them issues, they're sort of caveats really more than anything. I am pretty amazed, to be fair, on how much of an all-round device the XRGB Mini is. I'm not going to go too much into that comment at this stage because I don't want to preempt anything that I'm going to do on my top 10 video as regards to processors and scalers. Let's just keep let's just keep this review about the XRGB and nothing else. I don't want to compare it to anything else because that will give away part of that up and coming video that I'm going to be doing. But as a device, I am extremely impressed with it. I really am. It's done everything I can ask of it. It looks really, really stunning on my LCD, and actually comparing it against my Sony BVM, which is a broadcast quality monitor, it's pretty damn close to the look of a BVM as regards to the scanline emulation compared to how sharp it is on the BVM. It looks very good. It really does look very good. It's also probably worth saying that the current firmware that I've tested against, that I'm currently on at the moment, is the latest version of the firmware, which is 1.07. Undoubtedly that will change. It will hopefully add functionality to the device, make it even better. Hopefully it will get rid of some of these caveats that I've mentioned. So it can only get better in effect, hopefully over time. And I suppose that's really all there is to say about the XRGB Mini. It is a fantastic device. It currently retails at the moment in Japan on the current exchange rate about £270. So it's not a cheap device, but I suppose considering what it does and how well it does it, it really is an all-encompassing device. So it in my opinion, it's worth the money. It really is. Especially if you've got no intention at all of having a CRT and you haven't got the room for a CRT and you're still using LCD or plasma, or that's the set that you're going to be using now and in the future, and you want you know, a good quality processor that you can throw anything at and it'll just work, then yeah, the XRGB Mini does that for you. It fits the bill. The good thing about the XRGB Mini over many other processors is the fact it will deal with 240p, it will deal with 480i, and it will deal with 480p and above. Admittedly, for this review, I haven't tried, or didn't try, like an Xbox 360 via HDMI. I personally have no need to do that. I didn't bother putting that into the review because it's a bit of a sort of superfluous function as far as I'm concerned. I didn't try my GameCube. I didn't get around to doing that, but I suspect that will work as well as the other 480i inputs that I used. And I didn't actually try my Dreamcast either, purely because I haven't got, at the moment, I haven't got a transcoder to go from VGA to component. So again, I couldn't try that, but I can't say there'd been any problem with that at all, and I haven't heard of any problems with a Dreamcast. So yeah, to sum it up, it's a great device, guys. I really hope you enjoyed the video. I'll speak to you again soon. I've got this up and coming video scaler sort of top 10 video, which is probably going to go into a sort of top 10 of video processors, followed up with another 8 sort of gadget devices bolted onto that to explain a bit about what they do and what they're good at doing and so forth. And yeah, if you've got any questions, guys, about the XRGB Mini or the Framemeister, please drop me a PM. Please comment on the video, and I'll do my utmost to respond to the comments. I'll speak to you again soon.